It is, what is today? May 14th, 2020. This is day 12 of Flippin Live. My name is Andrew from 510 Books. Today I want to talk about Friends of the Library book sales, or library book sales, or FOL book sales, i.e. Friends of the Library book sales, and the types of planning you should do and how to navigate that type of thing. So once we come out of quarantine and thrift stores open, etc., and everything else starts opening, and we start seeing opportunities to go out there and source in public around other people, whatever the new world is going to be, that we should talk about that. And it's something that I have a lot of experience with, that I continue to do occasionally, or have continued to do, and will probably continue to do with certain sales. So I wanted to dive into that and also share with you a couple of sales that I had on eBay yesterday that you might find interesting. So let's jump into Flippin' Live, guys. Day 12.
Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live. We're gonna strive, we're here to learn and gonna earn. Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, we're flippin' live.
Good morning, guys and gals. It is early in the morning here, and we are going to get the show started. Hope you guys are doing well. I see a few of you are here. Brian's here. Good morning. South London Resellers here. Good afternoon. I know that it's a different time of day over there. We're just getting started. You're winding down. So I hope that you guys are having a good week. It's Thursday. Honestly, I can't believe that it's Thursday already. It felt like the first couple days were longer than they were, and now it's already Thursday, and the week's almost over, and the weekend's almost here. So it's kind of crazy to me, between having kids and then working a lot, being busy with reselling. The days just, the time and the days just, and the weeks and the months just fly by. May just started, and it's already May 14th. It's already, oh my gosh, we're almost halfway through May. I felt like we just hit May. So anyway, that's a peek inside my head. Brian says that he misses library sales. I wonder if they will reschedule ones that are annually, or if they will just wait until next year. Good question. I don't know, honestly, but nobody knows for sure. But as if it's any indication of how things might go, although it's a little bit different. I don't know if you heard that the California university system decided for the fall to put all of their classes online, so campuses will be pretty empty. I think it's the largest public university system in the country, and they decided that, I think yesterday or the day before, I heard that on the radio on NPR, that they had decided to go online. So brand new freshmen and everyone else, but imagine being a freshman going to college and you're just going to be at home with your parents. After you were at home with them all summer, you are going to be on your computer taking classes. So that is totally different than a library sale. In some ways, and in some ways not, clearly, because it's much more massive. But it is, for the purpose of not having millions of kids flood campuses, and not just them, because they're the ones that are less likely to get sick or suffer greatly from it. But anyway, they've closed that down. So library book sales, I would imagine, are like thrift stores, like anything else, will slowly start opening, and there will probably be initially, as there should be, requirements for face masks, social distancing, possibly even wearing gloves, I don't know, and no physical contact. But it's going to be tight or tough because, as you guys probably know, library book sales tend to attract a lot of people, and not always, but I would say it's kind of half and half. Some library book sale spaces that they use are not very big, and half the time that I go to them, I'm having to squeeze by somebody. Almost always standing next to somebody, if not in between two people, while I'm looking through books. So there's no way that social distancing can be maintained unless they limit the amount of people that go in at once. But I mean, I don't know how you navigate that, because as you know, as a person, as a reseller, you could spend an hour, 2, 3 hours there. I would say anywhere between an hour to 3 hours, depending on how quickly you're able to go through books, how big the book sale is, and how thoroughly you want to go through it, how much time you actually can or want to spend there. So non-resellers, people are just going to browse, or they're looking for specific titles to read, to buy, or as gifts, or whatever it may be. They might not spend as much time, although some do, but they might only be there 20 minutes. So, but anyway, my point is that if you let in 10 people and then, 10 minutes later, all of them are still there, unless you're going to limit people to how long they can be in there, which is going to be terrible for resellers. So it's kind of a tough situation, definitely. And I would think also that the quarantining, or the life that we're living right now, would probably keep some people away. Some people would not even bother going. And the other thing is, a lot of the volunteers are older. Almost all the volunteers, almost everybody that works at library book sales are volunteers, and they're all, I would swear, just about all of them are 65 and over, at least. Many are in their 70s, some are even in their 80s. I don't know. I don't ask them their age, but just by looking at them, majority of them are probably over 70, honestly. It's probably your experience too. So, those are the people that are most susceptible to getting very ill from COVID-19 and possibly dying from it. So that is the endangered species demographic for this virus. So that's tough. I don't know if that's going to happen. So my long-winded response is I don't know, but also it might be too dangerous, unless there is any sort of treatment. A vaccine is unlikely anytime soon. So that's a tough one, I hope that they're able to, and that people wear masks. But the people that work there, that's the people I'd worry about most, is them contracting the virus. But anyway, at some point in the future, when there is treatment, vaccine, or whatever happens, we will have library sales at some point, even if it's next year or the year after or whatever. But at some point, we'll get back to that. And that's, initially I didn't even start with library sales. I started with thrift stores first, and then I got into estate sales, garage sales, and then I found out about library sales. Honestly, before I became a reseller, if I had known about library book sales, friends of the library book sales, I would have been going to those constantly, because I was a huge reader, like reading several books a week. And I'd still be doing that if I didn't have kids and, my business, but there's not enough time now. But yeah, when I was having lots of time to read, I would have loved to go to that as a reader. That would have been awesome. But I just, unfortunately, didn't even know about it, which I don't know if that means they do a poor job advertising, or I'm not paying attention, or wasn't paying attention, but I just didn't know about it, because I would go to the library a lot to take books out. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to go over in regards to this. Before that, though, I just wanted to share a couple of sales that I had yesterday. A couple of videos here I have that I shot of some sales I had yesterday. This first one is going to be a sale I had on Amazon. So let me show you that video. If you were to see this CD out in a thrift store, in an estate sale, pull out of a Gaylord, etc., would you think it was worth money? White Tiger. 1999 is this version, but it's from 86. An 80s rock teased hair type of situation. So would you think it was worth money? I definitely would. I would immediately want to look it up. I found it in a Gaylord in November of last year, so we are in May. So I listed it in November, and it took, about 6+ months to sell. And it just sold today. Here it is right there. and it sold for $37.99 plus shipping, etc. And on Amazon. And actually, when you take a look at the listing, this is the CD, right? Format audio CD. There's actually a cassette tape available, but there are no more CDs available of this title. So I had the only copy. When you look at Keepa, this is the last year. Looking at a year, okay. It actually hasn't really sold. It sold one time. Here, it hasn't even shown that mine is sold because it sold today. But it did sell another time. According to this, it sold anyway. It dropped down to, well, that may or may not be a sale. It could be. But regardless, it hardly has sold in a year, and I was the only copy, so that must not be a sale. Anyway, but if we go back a little further, we can see that when there were more copies, it was selling pretty frequently for good money as well. But apparently there just weren't many copies out there. There was this one, $99. Someone sold it for $99. It was brand new. And then here was a copy, $47.98. And there were no copies until I put mine up there. $39.99. I guess I did at some point drop it just at $37.99, and it did sell. Now, if you look on eBay, check out what the prices are on eBay. This one sold for $14.17 plus tax. This is the same one here. This one they said it was new. It sold for less than $30. They took an offer. This one sold for, this was brand new, $24.86. This one here, $22.06 plus tax, about $28 and change. This one here, $24.86, $18.99. So a lot of times it makes more sense to flip it on Amazon, even if it will take longer, because you can get more money. Of course, if you just want to do a quicker flip, then you can put it on eBay and potentially get less money, but it'll sell faster. So it's up to you. So that's the sale that I had yesterday on Amazon. Pretty cool looking title. I mean, cover art. I believe one of the band members from that group was with Kiss as well, and I believe he died. So that's probably another reason why that album is sought after and goes for good money. So when you see stuff like that, that kind of falls into a similar idea as when we were talking about VHS tapes a couple days ago, and how looking for certain covers, certain bizarre cover art, and that one, it's not bizarre cover art, but it stands out because clearly, I mean, White Tiger, the teased 80s hair, the rocker, leather coats, leather jackets, that type of thing. It all stands out and says, I'm worth money. Now, not always those things are worth money, but most of the time, those are going to be worth some decent money. Those old hard rock, heavy metal type stuff from the 80s. So, when you see stuff like that, then you're always going to want to look it up. Especially if you're buying in bulk and you pulled out of a Gaylord or out of a bunch of hundreds of CDs that you bought, that's going to probably pay for a big chunk of it. Brian said, White Tiger this is a great, really, really big hair too. Absolutely. The hair is just exquisite. Wouldn't you say? Exquisite. Pat says, I have a 14-week-old at home. These quarantine days go by so fast. Wow. 14-week. Well, congratulations. Good luck with that. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old turning almost 5. So, man, it's funny when they get older, you forget about what it was like to have an infant, to have an actual baby that cannot walk around, cannot tell you what they want, cannot do things for themselves. So it's two different worlds when you go from a baby to having a more independent child, and then there crops up new issues and new problems when they can run around and terrorize you and run into things and cause havoc. But anyway, they're wonderful, but they're a headache at the same time. It's fun being a parent. So anyway, this is not a parenting stream, although we could talk a little bit about that too. So I always enjoy those sales, not just because I made a $38 sale, which is always nice, but just those kind of cool CDs. if I was into, although I used to listen to some some of that classic heavy metal, hard rock back in the 80s when I was a kid. I used to get into like Twisted Sister and Quiet Riot and that type of stuff. So I never knew about White Tiger, but I do come across ones that I am kind of familiar with. So those are fun. I mean, that would be one that I would might even keep even if I don't like the music, just because of how cool it looks and how it's pretty rare. It's unlikely that I'll come across it again. That's the thing about reselling is you have to you have to be careful that you don't get too into some of the stuff, because you're going to want to keep it for yourself and not sell it. So there's certain types of music that I will keep, or that I will, certain artists that I will keep, but most of them I mean, I do have a large personal music collection, but I by and large I resell most of it. I don't really like collect any other types of stuff. I mean, I'm a big reader, and actually I've started compiling our own DVD stash, but it's not very big, and it's not going to grow to be that big. But there's certain titles that I like to keep of music and DVDs. But yeah, you got to kind of be careful um, to not keep too much of it to actually resell most of it. Otherwise, you're becoming like a collector basically. But anyway, so that was a fun sale. I always enjoy those ones. And let me share with you another little video I made. Now these are eBay sales that are fun. And I talked to you guys before about selling PC games, or listing PC games on eBay. Here's another one that I came across in a Gaylord, one of those last Gaylords I was going through. Age of Empires 2, The Age of Kings, and Microsoft game from, I believe, the 90s. Turns out it's worth some money. I listed it for $21.99. It sold yesterday, and I listed it, I think, the day before. And I got an offer for $18. It was plus tax, or plus shipping, so I took it for the $18 plus shipping. You can see it here. And I'm going to ship it out. So keep your eye out for certain PC games, because there's a lot that are not worth money, but there are some that go for really great money. So keep that in mind. Here's another one I just sold. It is a Microsoft Office Mac 2008. Even though it's all the way back in 2008, I pulled this out of a Gaylord, home use program, etc., and I sold it for $11.99. So I'm already pulling lots of stuff out of Gaylords. I'll sell something for $11.99 all day. So watch out for old software as well. And just for fun, check this out. The third mini album, Just Right. I believe they're a K-pop band. This has got a bunch of stuff in this one. Sold it for, I believe, what did I sell it for? $19. I took an offer on it. So I listed this a couple months ago. Very colorful. That last one was, I just thought I'd share that with you. But the first two, though, I mean, the PC, like I've told you guys before, there's some PC games that are worth money. I've sold a lot of PC video games. I'm surprised by how many I've sold on eBay. But that's what's been fun with eBay is selling the stuff there that I probably couldn't sell, for wouldn't make sense to sell on Amazon. That collectors, people would go to eBay for this type of stuff. Most of these PC games I've never heard of. Some of them are strange or bizarre or just unique, different, that type of stuff. And the software too. I've sold a lot of old software. I'm always surprised that software from 12 years ago sells, but almost all the software that I put up for sale, Microsoft Mac software, especially like operating software, even if it's old. Like I just sold another, what was it, a Mac OS 10, I think it was Snow Leopard, and I listed it and sold it the same day. Again, it's from like 10 years ago. There's one that I have listed now, which is Leopard, which I think even older than that one, the Snow Leopard. I remember when those came out years ago. But, old software sells. It does well. So, again, this type of stuff, you may or may not be able to flip it from a thrift store or estate sale or whatever it may be, library book sale like we're going to talk about today. You may or may not be able to, because they might price it too high. It might not make any sense. But if you're buying in bulk, Gaylords or any of the type of bulk media, and that's in there with everything else mixed in there, it's definitely going to be worth it to resell, especially on eBay. That kind of stuff just always goes really quickly. I hardly ever keep very many operating system software, Mac or Microsoft software, in stock for very long. It usually flies out the door within the same day, a few days, maybe a week or two at most. It's usually just, unless it's super old or just for whatever reason it's not as in demand. But by and large, the more in demand titles are just gonna go out the door pretty quickly. Yeah, and I think even the disc alone, sometimes the discs alone will actually sell. I usually find them in their original packaging. I guess people just, when they bought them, they installed it, put the disc back in the packaging, shoved it in a desk somewhere, and then 8 or 10 years later, 12 years later, they come across it while they're spring cleaning or going through stuff or in quarantine, uh, and they decide to just donate it instead of throwing it away. So it ends up being, I have one of the Mac operating system in that original black retail box. So it's got everything in there that if you would have bought it in the retail store. Um, I have one of those that I just listed yesterday, no, the day before, a couple days ago. I don't expect that to stay in stock for very long. I usually sell those pretty quickly. Hello to anybody that's new in the live stream. This is Flippin' Live. I'm Andrew from 510 Books. If you're new, welcome. Feel free to participate in the chat. We're just going to start talking about Friends of the Library book sales, which are monster opportunities for resellers. Um, some people really love going to these. Some resellers really love going to them. I used to really enjoy going to them. And then others that have been around a while, or even new people that are just starting and just starting to get their feet wet, don't necessarily enjoy Friends of the Library book sales. And one of the big reasons is because a lot of people go to them. A lot of resellers and a lot of just readers, right? People who are going just to buy for personal use or as gifts, whatever it may be, collectors, that type of thing. So there's always a mixture. There's usually less resellers, but there's, depending on the sale, if it's a big sale, if there's over 10,000, 20,000 books, or at least that's what they advertise, chances are there's going to be probably a dozen or more resellers there. I've never been to those gigantic ones. I think there's one in Arizona every year, and there's a couple I've seen on the East Coast where they advertise having like 50,000, 100,000 books, and they'll have like a gigantic, almost like warehouse space, tented area, whatever the building they're using, the area they're using, just huge. And I've never been to one of those, but I've heard some crazy stuff that people will line up, start queuing up the day before. They'll put out their stuff. They'll spend the night. Craziness, but that's not something that I would. Well, whatever. I'm not going to go into that. But I was going to say I wouldn't recommend. But to each their own, right? If you're going to spend all day there, if you're going to potentially make a lot of money, then maybe you should go for it. But anyway, so I'm talking about more of the smaller ones. The biggest one I've ever been to is probably 25,000 books, and that's probably more on the like mid-range of, it's not even touching some of these massive ones that, okay, it's not even touching these huge ones. But I've been to, in terms of different library book sales, I've probably easily been to over 12 or 15 different ones here in Southern California. However, after having gone to many of them, Mama, close the door. Come on. After having been to a lot of them, I'll say that there's only a few that I would, or that I think about going back to, or that I actually go back to. There's one out here closer to where I live that I will go to occasionally, and then there is another one that's a little further away from me that's a good one, even though a lot of resellers go to that one. And a lot of times these sales will be over a few days, so They're rarely one day. Sometimes it'll be one day, but it's usually 2 to 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some of them will even go Thursday to Sunday or Thursday to Saturday. And the larger ones, the huge ones, will potentially go all week or start earlier in the week, that type of thing, if they're really massive. But the smaller ones tend to be a Friday to Sunday type of deal. So there's a couple things that I wanted to share. Number one is come prepared. So what I mean by that, a couple things here. What I mean by that is a couple things. So of course you got to have your phone, right? If you're brand spanking new and you're watching this video, you happen to be watching this video, come across this video, and you don't, and you've just started, and you're probably going to be using the Amazon Sellers app, which is free, which is what I actually use, believe it or not, for at least like a year and a half, if not longer. Back in 2014, 2015, I don't know when I actually got the first scanning software. I think it was Profit Bandit at first that I tried, and then I went to what was FBA Scan, is now Scoutly. Anyway, I can't remember exactly how long, but it was at least a year and a half, I believe. So always bring your phone with an app on there, with either your free app or your paid app. I highly recommend using Scoutly or something like that. It has much more data, much quicker. Also, your scanner, if you have a scanner. I didn't bring it here, but I have the what is that scanner? The K. Let's see here. I will bring it up here in a second. Wow. KDC, that's what it is. KDC 200, I believe. Where is it? KDC 200 Bluetooth scanner. So you can actually, that's the one I've had for years, and it still works. I've had some issues here and there with it. I've dropped it a few times. I replaced it once, but the one I currently have actually does work well. There's another one called EO, which is EY. I don't know, it's IO or something. That one is really popular. It's it's physically larger. The one I have is tiny. It's like a little black scanner. It's very, very small. It's got a strap. I wrap the strap around my hand. Anyway, so bring your phone, make sure your phone is fully charged, right? This is all I'm talking about. Come prepared. So bring your phone with a scanning app, bring your scanner if you have one. Make sure your phone is fully charged. Also, consider bringing an external battery. When I would go to library book sales, I would bring, not initially, but I learned over time that I bought an external battery. And so if my phone died or it was going to die, I would plug in an external battery into the phone and then have that in my hand while I'm scanning, so that I can get another 30, 40 minutes or an hour out of my phone and scanning. Because if you're going to spend a long, long time there, you want to make sure that your phone's not going to die, that you're going to be able to actually utilize your, the information that you have at your fingertips on your phone. So that would be such a bummer if you're doing really well, you're finding a lot of great books or any other media, and suddenly you're realizing, well, it's down to 15%, it's down to 10%, it's down to 5%, my phone's going to die any minute now, and then it dies, and not only can't you scan, but you have a dead phone. So make sure it's charged and you have an external battery. Also, I'd recommend to bring like a snack. Bring a power bar or a protein bar or something like that. I would always bring one, put it in my pocket, and then I would, sometimes they don't want you to have food in there. It depends on how long you're going to be there. If you're going to be there for a long time, I'm saying. If you're only going to be there for like an hour or so, not going to be there too long, then maybe it's not necessary. But I would do that because some sales I would know I was going to be there for a few hours. I was going to get hungry. Um, and it's work, right? Standing there, crouching down, looking through books. It's tedious. It's can be tiring, and mentally tiring, and then which then becomes physically tiring. So, bringing something to eat might be good. Go to the bathroom before you start. I recommend that as well. Also, you. So this depends on the sale. Sometimes they'll have boxes that you can use. The one in particular, one sale I'm thinking of that's closer to where I live on my end of where I am in California, here in Southern California, they have all these boxes out in the front and you can grab one or two to put your stuff in. So you can either bring bags, bring paper bags, grocery bag, Trader Joe type bags, um, or, burlap, whatever, thicker plastic bags. I recommend boxes, that type of thing. Also, people will have like a cart on wheels, and sometimes they'll have like a plastic container that's attached to it, or yeah, somehow attached to it, and so they can wheel it around, right? And it's on wheels, and don't have to carry it. I never did that, but people do that, and it also depends on how much space there is. Sometimes the aisles can be really narrow, so there's not much space, but that's another option as well. So you can just wheel it along as you find more books, putting them into boxes, fill up that box, stack another box on top. So that's something to consider. Yeah, if it's a big sale, you're probably gonna be there for a while. Also, a lot of the bigger sales will have a holding area where, and if they don't have an official holding area, you can potentially talk to the volunteers and say, "Do you mind if I just put this box here at the checkout area? Maybe put your name on it, a tag on it with your name, or a piece of paper with your name on it, and just have them watch it." The last one I went to, I did that. I said, "Can you watch my books?" And she's like, "Oh, no problem." And I ended up putting 2 boxes over there worth of books. And what do you call it? Yeah, so that helped, because what ends up happening if you're finding a lot of books is you get all these bags, all these boxes full of books, and then it's hard to deal with lugging those around, because as we know, books can be extremely heavy. Brian says he ended up buying a battery case. I'm not diabetic, but sometimes it's hot and stressful in there, and I've had my blood sugar drop quickly. Oh, yeah. I recommend bringing a snack. A bar is ideal because it's real easy. It's not going to make a mess. You can just unwrap it, and you can put it in a baggie ahead of time, so you don't have to deal with unwrapping it. Whatever it is, logistically works for you. I have these cargo shorts, and I have several big pockets, so I can just put it in there. You can put it, you can also do, which is what I've done, is you can put the snack in the box that you're filling, and then as you fill it, you can put it in another box, etc. if you don't have space in your pockets to put it. These are all things you can work out as you get more comfortable with library sales, because library sales are a different animal than a thrift store or garage sale, right? Because that's where books are. Books are at library sales. It's a library, so that's why so many resellers go there, because that's where there's tons of books, thousands of books. Thrift stores have books, but they also have other stuff, so you don't have to worry about going to a thrift store unless you're in an area where there's just tons of resellers. But I hardly have ever gone to a thrift store and there's 10 other resellers looking at books. At most, there might be 2 or 3, and that's even rare. Most of the time, there's nobody, and I might see one person. But at a library book sale, guaranteed that you're going to have competition. But it's not really your competition, but technically, I guess you could call it your competition. But there's going to be other resellers for sure. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know how I got off on that topic, but you're going to want to come prepared. So make sure you get all that. So your phone charged, etc. Anyway, all the stuff that I just mentioned. And then the other thing is here. The other thing to consider is to be early. Now, how early, right? You don't need to show up an hour, 2 hours ahead of time, unless it's one of those gigantic sales where people are lining up the night before, which just seems crazy to me. But hey, whatever. It's an adventure, right? It's an experience. So if it starts at 9, you probably shouldn't show up at 8:58. Although, I will say I was thinking about this after I had thought of this as something to talk about, as a point to talk about, is that it's probably a good idea to be early, but at the same time, it might not matter that much. So I wouldn't consider there being too early. Like maybe, okay, so as an example, I was going to say maybe like 15 minutes early. So, but as an example, excuse me, geez. As an example, the library book sale that's closer to where I live that I go to occasionally, maybe a couple times a year, they do a quarterly sale. I know from experience, I've been there enough that when I show up like 10-15 minutes before, there's already a line of at least, I would say 15 to 20 people, sometimes 25 people. Now, I've shown up 30 minutes and then maybe I'm in the top like 7 to 10. And there's one guy who's always number one. So that guy clearly gets there like 45 minutes, an hour before, and I guess he just likes to hang out. But anyway, you don't need to do that. My point is that you don't want to, be late because you want to get there and get down to business as soon as they open. But you don't need to be first in line, second in line, third in line, because you're only one person and you can only look through so many books. So it doesn't matter if you're first in line, because wherever you're going to go, and then you're going to start looking through the books. So if you are 20th in line, you get in there and you go to where you want to look, and there's already 5 resellers. It doesn't mean you can't look through the books. You got to just kind of fit in there, get behind them, and start looking. So it depends on how you look at it, right? If there's certain categories that might be more valuable, like textbooks, like educational types of books, yeah, I mean, if that's all you're going for, then maybe you want to be first in line so you can sprint there. But if it's a big section, like this one I'm thinking about has, 5 bookshelves of textbooks, you're only going to be able to look through so many before, let's say you're first and there's a reseller who's second behind you, and you sprint in and you look through 5 books before they look through anything, but they start at the end, you start at the beginning. Did it really matter? So it's a weird mentality that a lot of the resellers have, as if they're first in line, they're somehow going to make more money than someone else. Because unless you have a team of people, unless you have another person helping you or another 3 or 4 people helping you, then that's a way to sort of crush the competition, especially if you know that it's a library book sale that puts out really valuable books. So anyway, that's, take all that into consideration about being early or not early. But definitely, if you are there like 5 minutes before, you're definitely going to be behind a lot of people. Also, some places have you line up, and others people just congregate. Like I've been to one where there's just people out there, there's no line, and they open it and it's just this mass of people going in. Not exactly like Black Friday, where people are just like running through people and running over people. Not like that. It's a calm bum rush. But when there's resellers, some of these resellers can be a-holes, and most of them are not, but some can be extremely aggressive, extremely pushy. Apparently it's live or die to find the more profitable books for them. And so keep all of that in mind. I don't recommend being part of the bum rush. Just, be calm. I mean, like Ryan was saying, he says it gets stressful in there. It's true, but be calm, breathe deeply. You'll get through it, right? Like, just don't stress out about it. Although I have found that even if you are calm and you're going through the books and you're not like frantically doing it, that you can become stressed just by watching other people like freaking out about it. I mean, you don't understand how many library sales I've been to, and there are people who are just like almost hyperventilating. They're just so quickly going through everything. Oh my god, I've got to hurry. These other resellers, they're going to find the books before I am. And if I don't find the books, I'm not going to be able to eat lunch. Like, it's crazy. So don't do that. Relax. Be early. Okay, here's the next one. Pick a genre category, and stick to it. So, what do I mean by that? I don't mean only look at the books in one category. What I mean is, when you get there, either ahead of time or as you're walking in, decide. If you're new to it, you don't know what they have, right? But anyway, if you've been there before, you know what their genres are, the categories are, so you know where they're laid out, etc. If you've never been to one or never been to a book sale, generally they have kind of covering everything, right? They're going to have textbooks, educational, they're going to have computer stuff, they're going to have history, they're going to have, of course, fiction, but in terms of nonfiction, they're going to have maybe military, maybe art, arts and crafts, kids, whatever. They're going to have all kinds of different genres. They might even have like a collectible vintage section as well. All different. Sometimes they'll really break it down and really get niche specific. Biographies is another one. Cooking, cookbooks. So there's a lot of different, genres or niches or categories to choose from. So which ones to go to is up to you and what you think is more valuable. If you've been to a book sale before, library book sale, and you know what they have and what tends to be more valuable, then you might want to focus on those areas first and then go to everything else later. But whatever the area is you go to first, even if you go, that's the other thing. Even if you go to the most popular area for resellers, which is textbooks, educational books, most resellers that are scanning will go there first and try to find the most valuable books in the textbook area. Although what I found at library book sales is, well, yes, you can find some $50, $60, $70 textbooks. It's pretty rare that you do. A lot of the textbooks are outdated, but you might find some. But anyway, wherever you go, did someone just, let's see. Brian says, a ground squirrel ran into this library sale and the lady started screaming. Some people were concerned until they realized what was going on. Yeah, they were like, what's happening? Is someone being attacked? It was Attack of the Squirrels. Yeah. So it's funny. Oh my God, we could talk. We're almost to the end of the stream, and I'm realizing that, wow, we could talk about this for another episode, and maybe we will talk about some more, relate some stories and stuff. But yeah, some weird stuff can happen. I've seen a lot of funny, interesting, sad, all different types of stuff at library sales. Why? Because there's a lot of people that go there. And so book resellers can be wacky, crazy, and then just buyers, browsers there can be some oddballs, just like anywhere in life. But there's something about some book or some readers, they can be an odd bunch. So yeah, so pick a genre, right? Where did it go? So pick a category and stick to it. So what I mean by that is be methodical, right? So I wrote this down. I said, look at/scan. So some things you can just scan, right? If you have your scanner, you're just like I have my phone in one hand, and I actually have the scanner is tiny, so it like fits right here underneath my phone, and the strap is wrapped around my hand, so the scanner stays attached to my hand, and then I just put it underneath my phone right here, and then I have both of them in one hand. And I use my other hand to pull the book up to scan it. So I just go boop, 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 right? If it doesn't have a barcode, then I have to decide in the moment whether it's worth looking up. And over time, if you've been doing this for years, you know what's worth looking up and what's not. So be methodical, right? When I say pick a category and stick to it, what I mean is start wherever the category starts. You could go in the middle, but it just makes sense to me to start at the beginning or the end, work your way backwards, work your way forwards, whatever. Here's where military starts. Okay, art starts, history, um, whatever it is. I don't recommend computers so much, but uh, here's biography. Boom. I'm going to start here. Here's the first book. I'm going to start scanning. Oh, there's a book that doesn't have a barcode. Let me look it up. You never know. So be methodical. Go through every single book. You don't have to scan every book, but what I mean is decide whether you should scan it or look it up or not, and just go, because otherwise you're going to miss books. Um, let's see, and go from start to finish. So frantically rushing through the categories won't necessarily make you more money. It'll just stress you out and make the whole experience not worth having and not worth doing. So that's why you can be fast with your scanning. There's nothing wrong. I'm not saying don't be slow. I'm not saying be a slow scanner. Be fast, right? Pull them up, scan. Like, go quick. Do I don't know, 30 books in a minute if they all have barcodes. I mean, you can do that, right? So that's not what I mean by being frantic. Frantic to me is, I see people and they're scanning quickly, but they're not even going through every book. They're leaving books behind that don't have barcodes. They don't even bother with them. And also, I'll see people. Well, they'll go to a section and they'll literally just be like, "Oh my God, what book do I get?" And they'll just pick up one and they'll scan it, and then they'll oh, I'll pick up this one, and then they're like done with a section that has 500 books in like 5 minutes, and they haven't looked through anything. And then I start going through the section, and it takes me 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. And depending if there's a lot of books to look up manually or type in ISBNs or use the little ISBN capture you can use on Scoutly and other apps, and I'll find way more books. I'll find, they only found 5 books, maybe I'll find 20, 30 books in that one section, because, or double, triple, quadruple what they found, because they didn't take the time. And then, you know what I will see over and over and over again? I will see those same frantic resellers come back to that section after I've already gone through it, and start going through it again and looking at other books. It's like, why didn't you do that in the beginning? Because the mentality is, if I don't frantically go through everything and look at the stuff that looks like it could be worth money, then other resellers will get it before me. But you know what? It's the opposite. If you go through it methodically, you won't miss anything. Now, other resellers will be going quicker and going through other stuff before you, but how methodical are they? Almost every single time that I go to a library book sale and I get behind, I go through the sections that other resellers have gone through, I always find profitable books. Always. Unless the book sale is not very good. Unless the books, the library is selling online or pulling more books that they feel are valuable or they know are valuable, and putting them into a lot of times they'll have a bookstore in the library, they'll throw them in there. Or maybe you came on the second day and the preview day before, a lot of resellers hit the sale then and got a lot of the valuable books. There's a lot of reasons, but yeah, so my theory has been, and has worked over and over again, is that to be methodical. Let's see. Yeah. Apply your knowledge of scanning for Amazon and eBay. So like I do say, I highly recommend you resell on Amazon, FBA, merchant fulfilled, and that you do eBay, so that whether it's books, which is mostly what's going to be there, but there's also going to be some CDs, there's also going to be some audiobooks, there's also going to be potentially records. Let's see, records. Sometimes they'll even have DVDs. Usually not video games, but they'll almost always have some CDs. They'll almost always have some audiobooks, and then might have records, might have DVDs. The larger ones tend to have a lot of other stuff too. I mean, all the other media. So you want to be good at knowing what sells where and how to look it up. because otherwise you're going to miss out. That example of what I showed you a week or so ago on the live stream of that old book that was from 1905 or 19 something like that. Thomas Bullfinch, that I found for $1 at a library sale, the last one I went to in February. And all these other resellers, perfect example, all these resellers they were up in the nonfiction area. When I started going through the books, there was at least like half a dozen, maybe more, maybe like 8. And most of them were scanning. And one guy had a bunch of books in a box, so clearly he was finding stuff. But guess what? He missed out on the vintage book that I sold for $82 on eBay. And there's another book that I know will sell, just going to take time, that I have listed for over $200, and it does sell for around $200. So when that sells, that guy just missed out on almost $300 because he's flying through scanning. Now, I understand some people are like, I don't want to do eBay. I don't want to do merchant fulfilled. I just want to do FBA. I just want to scan quickly because I just want to get through this and leave. Okay, that's your prerogative. You can do that. But if you want to make more money, you're gonna have to be methodical. If you wanna just spend 45 minutes to an hour there, and whatever you make is what you make, that's fine, right? You can do that. It's your life. You can do whatever you want. But if you want to make as much money as possible because you're already there, then you got to be methodical. And you got to also, what I see some people do is, or I've seen some people do, and heard people talk about even in YouTube videos, is they'll scan everything first. They'll do everything that's has a barcode, and then they'll go back and do all the ISBN type in manual lookups. So it's a different way to go about it, and they probably do that because they figure, well, I want to get to all this stuff I can scan quickly before all the other resellers do, and then go back and thoroughly go through everything. That's another way you could do it. I prefer to not do that because once I go through a section, I want to be done with it. And I don't go in with a scarcity mindset, right? Don't go in saying, well, if I don't scan all the scannable books, then I'm going to miss out. I wouldn't recommend that mindset at all. So anyway, also, where am I here? Pick a category. Oh, clean up after yourself. Don't make a mess. So this should be self-explanatory, but this should be obvious. You should know to clean up after yourself as an adult human and to not make a mess. However, it's not always the case. I've seen grown men, grown women making big messes. And what I mean is books that were organized neatly in rows in their categories, people will haphazardly put them back, won't put them back correctly, won't put them in the right category. They'll, not damage, like tear or throw the book around, but kind of like toss it back, mishandle it, just not care about anybody else except themselves. All they want to do is make their money, and they don't care about other people that might want to read a book that you can't make any money on, but someone might enjoy it, right? Always be respectful. Don't hoard books in the corner. So something that a lot of resellers will do is they'll go through the books quickly when they get there, pick everything they think is worth money, throw it into their box or whatever, their bags, they'll haul it into the corner, and I've seen this so many times, and they'll make like a giant castle of books in the corner. And then they'll go over there and they'll scan them. And then, out of the 100 books, maybe 20 or 30 they'll want to keep, and then they'll go and pay for those and leave. And what I've seen time and time again is they will leave the books in the corner or up against the wall and not even put them back. Or if they go put them back, they won't care where they go. They'll just randomly put them on a table, stack them up there, and not put them how they were before. So that's one of my big pet peeves. Definitely don't hoard books in the corner. You can just go through them. Why do you need to do that? But people have this scarcity mentality that I've got to, guard these books with my life, even though I probably won't get them. I've seen people do that in thrift stores. It's so weird to me. It's like the second they see someone, another reseller, they get super protective, scared, stressed out. I guess because you know it's it's hard to compare to something else, but I guess it's like if someone you're at your job and someone comes in and is like gonna take your job and you start getting into fight mode, I guess, but survival mode. And for resellers, I guess that's why they just start um, doing weird things. Don't be pushy is another thing. So yeah, oh my gosh, so many pushy resellers. It's crazy. And I would think as a non-reseller, if you were to go to a book sale and you were to see how some of these resellers are acting, that you would really get turned off. Because I've been at some and some of these people, and it's men and women. Women especially think that they can get away with being pushy with a guy and with other women. So don't be that one that's being pushy, please. And don't take that from someone else. Don't get into a fight, but just let them know, hey, that's not appreciated. Let's not do that. Or you can just be like, dude, come on. Really? Or you can be like, dude, is this what we're going to do? I'm scanning right here, and you're going to reach across, like your arm's going to go right across my body so you can grab a book. It's like, come on, dude. So try to remain calm. Don't get to any shouting matches because you don't want to get kicked out, right? You don't want to have an issue with not being able to go back again, being seen as the bad guy. So I would recommend, just telling them, hey, whoa, please don't reach across from me. I'm right here. Something like that. Some people are bad though. Like I've had people physically like push against me with their body, and I'm just like, whoa, let's not push. Let's not do that. And if you tell people, a lot of them will be surprised because they're so used to being pushy and like nosing their way in, and people being pushovers that they get away with it. So there's a couple more things you could talk about, like going to the preview. Should you become a member of the Facebook group of the library, Friends of the Library? Well, you can. Bag sales. So we could talk a little bit more about that another time. How many people? We have a couple people watching. But yeah, I would say you can do the preview. Usually, sometimes they'll do a preview, which is the first day, like a Friday, and then they'll let people in after that are not. Sometimes it'll just be Friday. It'll only be preview for those that are members. So you pay $5-10, very small amount of money. It goes to the library, Friends of the Library. So it's good. And you can be the first resellers there. I never used to know about that. I would just go to the second day, and I'd still find books. And some of the sales, they'll actually put out more books. Some won't. So you have to find that out. You can find it out ahead of time too. Call somebody or call them and find out. But it's up to you whether you want to go to the preview. A lot of resellers will only go to the first day because that's all they want, right? Is just to go there, or just to go through what's there initially and then don't come back. There's also bag sales. Fill a bag sale could be worth it, especially if you're selling locally. Now I know, as having my local sale in the warehouse, that fill a bag sale can be great because I can grab a bunch of stuff that people might buy for $2 or $3 in my sale, and I can fill a bag for, it's anywhere from $1 to $5. I've seen as much as 10, but for anywhere from usually like $1 to $5 to fill a bag. And then you can grab as much as you want, put as many books in there, CDs, whatever it is. And that might make sense if you're doing lots on eBay, or you're doing lots locally on Facebook Marketplace, or if you're doing a sale locally. So that can be another good opportunity. And also if you're just reselling online, sometimes you can find some stuff still left over, and you can get it for super cheap. I would also recommend trying different sales. if you live in an area, a highly populated area where there are hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, then you have an opportunity to go to a lot of different library book sales. If there's only a couple libraries and you'd have to drive really far, well, it still might be worth it. If it's a big one, it might be worth it to make that drive. Even to go a couple hours, if you can go and spend all day at a sale and make potentially $500, $1,000, then it can be worth it, right? So it just depends on where you live. But yeah, guys, so those are whoops. Fill a bag might be great for lots then too, Brian said. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you are putting together different types of authors, whether they're fiction or whether they're different types of genres by nonfiction, then fill a bag can be awesome. I used to see this guy at a couple of different a couple of different library sales. This was when I first started. This was like this was probably the first year of reselling and finding book sales. Is I would see him at probably 3 different ones, 2 that I can think of, but I might have seen him at another one, and he would buy all this stuff that I didn't understand why he was buying, because individually you couldn't sell it for any money on Amazon. At that point, I wasn't doing eBay. But clearly he was either buying them to put them in lots for eBay, or local sale in lots, through Facebook Marketplace or whatever. Or he had a bookstore or doing a sale, and he was putting them together for that reason as well. And I used to see him with a helper as well. He would have somebody grabbing a bunch of books for him too. So that's my assumption, that he was doing lots locally or on eBay, or he had a local store that he was having sales for, that he was getting books for. And I never used to understand why he was bothering with those, but that's probably why. And it's funny, I stopped seeing him at all at the sales, so I don't know what happened with him, and if he stopped reselling or stopped going to library book sales. But I will say that library book sales are a great option when you're first starting. It'll get your feet wet. It'll introduce you to tons of books. It'll hone your scanning skills, your sourcing skills. And in the beginning, if you're doing FBA only, let's say, you really want to get good at finding out what books are worth your time, so that if there's 500, 1,000 books, you don't necessarily have to scan every single one. There's certain titles, certain series that just don't make any sense. You don't need to bother with those. So it'll really help you with that. And they're inexpensive too. Most library book sales, I would say the books are about $1. Sometimes they're 50 cents. I've even seen where they're 25 cents. The one that I go to closer to where I live, that's quarterly, the paperbacks are 50 cents. The hardcovers are $1. I always make money at those places. They also have some CDs. They also have a lot of kids' books. They have a lot of fiction. But a lot of nonfiction too. A whole wall, just thousands of nonfiction books. And for those kind of prices, you're gonna make money. Sometimes you'll see $2, maybe $3, but usually it's around $1 to $2 at most, at least in where I live and the sales that I've gone to. All right, guys. So we're at the end of the live stream. I really appreciate you guys watching. We had some fun talking about library book sales. I gotta go eat. I gotta go drink some water. I'm getting dry mouth here talking so much. But this was day 12. This is awesome. Let's play the music, get ourselves out of here.
Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live. We're gonna strive. We're here to learn and gonna earn. Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live. We're flippin' live.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I enjoyed today. I feel like I could talk another hour about library book sales and tell stories about them, about about the kind of funny things that I've seen. I'll try to think of some stories for another time. So guys, this is day 12 of Flippin' Live. 12 days in a row we've been going live together. I appreciate you guys that have been coming out and watching consistently, keeping this going. Thank you very much. It's Thursday. We're still quarantined, but try our best, right? See if we can find some good stuff to flip. Tomorrow I have an appointment to meet somebody locally who has a pallet of toys. So I'm going to see if that's going to be worth my time to do, see the types of toys they have, and maybe it's something new that I can get into. But I hope you guys have a great day. Hope you guys profitable. Hope you guys make a lot of sales or able to list a lot. And keep, as always, guys, keep booking and also stay safe. Also, though, I wanted to share this with you. Make sure and follow Kermit's advice. When you realize that you need to start social distancing yourself from the refrigerator. I don't know if you guys have come across that. But thanks, Kermit. Thanks, guys, for watching. I appreciate it. Stay safe, guys. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.